One. G'day, guys. This is Jay here again, all the way down under in Australia. We've got kangaroos, koalas, and Steve Irwin impersonations. And this is a chat with Jay, opinions and views, but this is one that I love doing. I love talking to people around the world, people who are making a massive, massive difference in the world. And I'm very honored to have Brheanna on my show today. I'm gonna read this. What we do in pro. I was an ex-pro wrestler, so we do have cards we look at. I'm gonna get this right. It's a quantum hypnotic healer, if I'm correct. QHH, if I'm correct. And she's an energy healer, spiritual healer, and someone who's looking to make a difference with the experiences she's had in the past. Exactly what we're all doing, telling our story, removing our masks, telling our story. What can I say, Brheanna? Thank you so much. Which part of the world are we? We got America, but whereabouts?
Central US.
Central
Minnesota.
US. Absolutely. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming on board. I'm going to leave you.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Tell us a little about yourself. What was the inspiration, I guess, in a lot of ways for Light and I'm looking down. I'm going to get this right. Light and Breezy Coaching. I think it's a catchy name. That is really cool. Tell us all about it.
Actually, there's a fun story behind that. So like many spiritual healers, I had a very tough childhood. But when I was young, my nickname was Breezy. So Brheanna Breezy. So everybody called me Breezy. I went through some massive trauma points and I was like, I'm done being called Breezy. I kind of did this like reinvention and I shut that part of my life out and kind of with the trauma, right? And when I went through my big healing and my big breakthroughs and decided to make my business to help others, I decided that girl needed another chance. And so I ended up with Light and Breezy coaching. So
fantastic. And what was the big event? Because everyone has a big event that has a life-changing event. I mean, we have events in our life that, there's little ones, but there's always one that actually gets you. What was yours?
Yeah, so my big one, and I had a lot of micros, but my big one was in 2020. I had a near-death experience. I contracted fungal pneumonia from wearing the masks when COVID hit. And because it was COVID, they didn't really look at any real options. They were overwhelmed. So it kind of got pushed through and ended up collapsing. And I got rushed to the ER. And so I had 6 minutes where I stepped out of my body. And so I'll try to break that down as much as possible. But I had a spirit guide, and it's actually a girl that I know. She's the daughter of someone I knew when I was growing up. So not directly in my life every day, but she was standing there and she's still, she's alive. And so I remember looking at her like, why is she here? Like, I'm looking at my body. And so basically she told me that I had a soul contract and that I had put in my soul contract that I had an exit clause and that I could leave and go home or I could go back, but I was getting on to my life purpose and that path. And then I kind of went into this, like what you call, I guess, the vortex, but I wasn't shown what most people experience near-death experiences, their life review and things like that. I was shown like the quantum web and how everything was connected and there was no separation, that everything that had happened to me, every pain, everything was connected, and that it all led me to that exact moment where it was going to be, or either you're going back or you're going into this. So that's kind of what, shortened version, what I experienced. And then I did come back and I went through what a lot of people in spiritual transitions kind of go through. You kind of are like, okay, I'm on the path, right? And then it's like nothing really changes. And so I was thinking I was doing something wrong, and and then I had about a year later I had a spontaneous Kundalini Awakening, and I didn't know much about that and what that entailed. And
explain
all of a sudden,
just explain that, because that'd be good, because there's a lot of people. Sorry to cut you off there.
No.
We get a lot of people coming through and they have these experiences like with spiritual awakenings, whether it be someone coming to them in a dream or they have an experience. I've had people come out and say, look, I've had this dog sitting in my front door. I mean, dog means loyalty in the American Indian, stuff like that. So explain Kundalini Awakening in your terms. That'd be awesome. G'day guys, it's Jay here from Journey of a Whitefeather with Aussie affirmation all the way from the Canadian Rockies. Look at that. Absolutely brilliant to be here. So honoured to be here. But our Aussie affirmation for today is, I'm going to read it out from here. Your deepest emotions and fears are your greatest bloody answers. Of course, we've got a bit of Aussie slang. But remember, look deep into your side, ladies and gentlemen. Your greatest fears, your greatest emotions will be your greatest answers. You have to let go and trust yourself when you actually do that. I've done that. I've been scared little boy. I've been around where I'm a people pleaser, but at the end of the day, there's certain things in life that you have to understand. When you go deep inside and work those things out, trust yourselves, trust the universe, trust the flow, and of course, trust your heart and trust your spirit. You'll get to where you need to. Have a look at this. In the heartland of Bret the Hitman Hart, the Canadian Rockies, Calgary, Alberta, Canada, this is Jay from Journey of Whitefeather. I'm going to speak like Steve Irwin because we love him. Go get a shrimp on the barbie, go grab a few crocodiles, mate. That's the way it is over here. Canada, what a beautiful people here and in the USA. And I can't wait to return here very, very soon. Take care and always be the best there is, best there was, and I look up the best there ever will be. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so basically I went through another like micro trauma. And a couple of days after that happened, I was sitting in my office and I felt like a snap. And the best I can describe it is like a glow stick cracking, right? And then all of a sudden I felt energy just shoot up my body. And it was like I was like shaking, and then all of a sudden I could just like all these voices, and I remember just sitting there going, oh, I've cracked. That's it. I'm like finally crazy. But this energy pulse, like I thought electricity was going to shoot out of my hands. I mean, it was so intense. I didn't sleep for 30 days. I could not fall asleep. It's just energy pouring
really
out of me. Yeah.
How did that feel? How did that feel?
Like
30 days. I can't go without sleep for about. I have to have at least 2 hours. But 30 days. Explain that to me. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I would go to like sleep. I would go through the motion, but I would go in trance. And I was having just download after download after download of just, I was starting to have connections with like extraterrestrials were starting to come in. I was having, like, my brother had passed away and he had come to me in that. And so I was like still going through the motion of trying to sleep, but I never actually was asleep, and yeah, so I ended up getting together with some shamans at that point. I didn't know where to go. I know a lot of people that I talk to that have had this experience end up in like psychiatric holds because you really do feel like you lost your mind. I mean, it just hits you so hard. But I ended up meeting up with some shamans who really helped me and guided me through, piecing together the trauma points that were coming through and what was being integrated into my energy field, the upgrades I was experiencing. I remember one of the nights that I was trying to sleep, I saw like in my rooms, like I call them the spiritual surgeons. They came in and just started working on my body, and I was almost in this
how did that feel?
Energy.
Did it feel like someone was again fascinating because I haven't heard this one, but you sort of like it's all like the angels coming in, and I guess you're sort of like this person they're working on. It's on to heal. It reminds me of Mortal Kombat. This sounds bad. Mortal Kombat, where they healed Jax's arms through. He lost his arms, obviously, and they healed him through acupuncture and energy healing. So that's the first thing that came to my head. What happened with yourself?
Yeah, I felt like safe. I didn't feel like I was in any kind of danger. But it felt very surreal, like I said, the whole time I was like, am I crazy? Like, I just started to think that, like, I'm like, maybe I just really have lost it. But no more. And now I channel so much now. It's like it's integrated fully. And so now I'm like, no, I'm not crazy. It's just these are the things that we're taught to keep us out of the belief of how powerful we are and how connected we are to everyone. I mean, there's no separation, even you and me, or across the world, and somehow our guides and our timelines, intervene. And, there is no coincidence. That was the one thing they really kind of told me. They're like, there is no accidents. And when you really, so I'm an astrologer and I go like deep astrology.
Yep.
I have mapped out so many transits on people's lives to the day. It almost, I tell people this, and I don't mean there's no free will, but I think we give too much credit to free will. And I tell my clients this a lot that, if you just look at everything as kind of mapped out and that your free will was when your higher self made your soul contract, it takes all the pressure off of you.
Wow.
You're here to
Okay.
observe, you're an observer. That your higher self is the driver, I tell them, like, you're the
Yeah.
passenger, princess. You're experiencing here
I
as
get
the
I
avatar.
I get that. Yeah. It's interesting you say with regards to letting go and those spiritual teachings from Wayne Dyer and Dr. Joe
Hmm.
Dispenza. It's funny that you say let go and you connected to source. I think Wayne Dyer says source, universe,
Yeah.
God, whatever, whichever
Yep.
one you want. And the Akashic Records, I want to do a shout out to my friend Jackie Lyons, who does the Akashic Records in Canada. And you do have that contract. And I think when you come in, you have a journey and you get to learn. I think when we have these awakening processes, we actually awaken ourselves to what is actually has happened to you. And then you can sort of try to realign. I know I'm doing that myself, and I resonate with everything you're saying with that, with learning the lessons and finding the balance within your energy and your lessons that you've learned, and also those spiritual teachings. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's a I think a lot of people are really. I believe people are coming into it, but they're very. I think they're very confused in some ways because of, obviously getting pushed the other way. And the other thing I wanted to ask you while I've got you is regarding. I call life a bit of a choose your own adventure. Now I'll explain that to you. I think if we don't learn your lessons or you keep
Hmm.
going with the same things, if something's put in front of you, the universe will give you a push to say you've got to learn this and you can move on. A lot of people don't.
Yep.
um,
Hmm.
do you think we have three or four outcomes, or not even three or four outcomes? We have our eventual outcome, and then it depends on how many lessons we learn to how far close to, oh, sorry, how far close, that's shocking English, how close we come to that, or can we actually change the way we will end up? I mean, it's like anything. Like you talk about people who are addicts who come and find the light, or they go the other way. There's a lot of things that happen that way. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, with my clients, I tell them, I'm like, if you look at your destiny or your life path, right? I always tell them, like, it's like a hallway. No matter what, you're walking that hallway. That was what you came here to experience and destine, but there's doors along that hallway that you can go into, and those are our delays or the side quests, right?
Yep.
Sometimes they slow you down. Sometimes they might move you off to a little, but it's not going to take you off that main destiny. You know what I mean? So you're going to play that out. Now, the way you play it out, learning the lessons, integrating the lessons, that's the difference. That's the key. It's, do you decide to keep living in the lack or the lower vibrational planes? And I always have, like, my biggest thing with people, I'm like, get out of victimhood. That is the biggest
Yep.
killer of spiritual connection. Is, you can't be a victim. You have to understand that everything happens for a reason and that there's a lesson in everything. And when I was going through like major traumas, I used to think, like, why does this happen to me, right? And then as I got through, like, deeper into my spiritual practices, it's why is this moving through me, right?
Mm.
It's not always about you and your experience. So
Yep.
I've gone through really painful experiences that were actually meant to catalyst other people's growth, but we take it as everything's about us.
Yep.
And sometimes we come down with the soul contract and intention to actually catalyze other people into their growth, but it hurts you in that process. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a bit of a
So
white
it's,
light, a bit of a white lighter type thing. If you watch Charmed, you see what I resonate. I watched that I watched so many episodes of Charmed. I can pretty much tell you what it's going. I look at, say, Leo, what he did, sacrificed himself. We were connected to the other. It's a simple concept, but I think with when you do have those awakening processes that you say, and I think us as guides and learning those lessons, those life lessons that have really been smashed the last 2 decades. It's all about the piece of paper and the school. Whereas life lessons like what we're learning now are really becoming prominent. The piece of paper is relevant, but we can't discard what we have gone through and what we're learning. And I think everyone is starting to think that the spiritual world is more, or say the personal development, however you want to put it, is not all about, getting back into the feminine energy. If you look at
Hmm.
duality,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
there's so much, so much that I resonate
And
with.
that's what we're in right now. The shift that we're feeling right now is that the feminine started the embodiments in between, like, well, I mean, it's been going on for a while, but I would say 2020 to like currently, they
Mm.
really started to embody more power and taking back the power that they have always held, but was always kind of suppressing out of
Yep.
fear or lack or, society. But now the feminines are kind of feeling like, and I get a lot of women that are telling me, they're like, I feel like I'm just kind of hitting this wall. Like I can't make anything work. And I'm like, yeah, because we're kind of here just holding the frequency now because there's a big influx of the masculine stepping into their divine masculine energy and not their wounded masculine energy. So I'm like, the feminine will hold the space in the spiritual realm so that the lower dimensions, which are generally the divine masculine, carry that energy, can actually have a moment to heal. And so we're seeing a lot
Yep.
of men that are starting to, or just not men, it's not gender, but masculine energies that are
Yeah,
starting to
that's
really
right.
step into that uh power, and that's why a lot of these feminines are feeling this like, why am I just feeling kind of like I'm stuck? And it's like
Yeah,
you're not stuck, you're
it's
holding the line.
it's a big thing with regards to, we've got the Pluto, year 9. It's in Pluto. I mean, as I said, this is only just coming through. We had the 5 retrogrades, which was the biggest.
Yeah.
I think it was the hardest month I've experienced going through retrogrades, and I think it was the
Yeah.
deepest. Even to this morning, I got a lesson. It's the amount of lessons that we're learning to move on and understanding that everything is connected to you, and regardless whether it be fun, whether it be energy, whether it be yourself. Have you found that people are starting to question a lot of that and trying to go back to, I wouldn't say childlike happiness, but that freedom when we were children type thing? Would you feel that we're going back to that? And it's basically against the grain, isn't it? Like we've been programmed to sit there in the
Yeah.
matrix. What do you think about that?
No, I think you're very accurate. A lot of the people I'm watching, as they're going through their awakening, they're quitting their jobs. This doesn't make me happy. This isn't fulfilling me. And I think that is kind of coming from that inner child that was like, how did I get here? All of a sudden, I'm living a life that's not mine, and it was just conditioned to believe that I was supposed to live this life.
Yep.
And no, I think there's a lot of people that are stepping out of that and going back to their passions and what lights them up. Um,
That's a good
so
way of putting
here's
it. Light you. I like that one. Lights you up, because I said, a very close friend of mine said the other day, I haven't seen you for about a year, but you've lost that flame. You've lost the fire, mate. And then the next day, when a certain event happened, he looked at me, he goes, I'm a professional wrestling fan, love the Ultimate Warrior. He goes, you grab those ropes and you put that makeup on, mate, and you shook those ropes, you're back, mate, you're back.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, sorry to cut you off there, but yeah, but
No, 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 you're, yeah.
great
No,
conversation.
and I tell a lot of my clients too, they're like, well, I don't know what my life purpose is. I was like, first thing you do is you go back to when you're a child. What did you like to do? What
Hmm.
did you do before everybody told you what to think you liked? That's the first step. And, people are like, well, what did you like to do? And I was like, well, here's my funny story is that when I was a little girl, I had this imaginary friend and her name was Apple Pie. And I spent all my time with her. I would go out in little nature hikes, and I was always very loner. I never really spoke to anybody. All my family remembers her. It was like that significant of a part of my life. And when I had my near death experience, and I started to connect more with my spirit guides, and I had 3 that were like major that were always around, Paul, Nima, and Argo. And I could always sense this other energy, but never came forward. And about a year after I got into really channeling, I can remote view and I can astral project. And when I started to really perfect that, she stepped
Wow.
forward,
It's
and it was
awesome.
Apple Pie. She was always there. She was training me as a child to do what I'm now here doing. But when the trauma hit and the world told me what I needed to be, and the pain started to hit from the matrix, she stepped away. And I had asked her like why she hadn't come forward sooner, and she's like, you would have thought I was a childhood delusion, and you wouldn't have stepped into your power knowing uh, that I was there, or that you would have thought that you had made it up. Um, and so I remember just thinking, I was like, So all that time, what I was doing as a child, because I always remember, I was like, I don't remember what I liked to do as a child. I think I liked to climb trees, and then I realized, I was like, oh, she was working with me as a guide to come in and do this. And so it was actually a full circle moment with the child healing. Hence why the Light and Breezy really became the name for my business, because it all connected. And I was like, there's no separation there.
Do you have you said you got the hypnotherapy within your practices, and you've
Yeah.
got that, and I love that concept of going back to fun. I'm a bit when I it's even changing what I do is motivational coaching, motivational mentoring. I changed that from people pleasing into that, and it was JT Fox and that told me that gave me the idea of it's more of a corporate name, it's idea innovator, right? So they use a bit of a corporate name, but then I got thinking, and then what it got me thinking was exactly what you were saying. Let's flip it, and then there's the mirror, and then there's coincidence, which we'll talk about in 1 minute.
Yep.
When you've got a client, when you do your hypnotherapy, that do you sort of do it that way where they have to regress, or what can they find? What can people find when they come and see you and they get this hypnotherapy? Will they go back and regress to a happy child, or how does it all work?
Yeah. So a session with me looks like this. It's usually you come in and there's no hard lines. I always kind of tell people, I'm like, plan to be with me for the day. But we sit and talk about their whole life. I want to know the cast of characters. I want to know what major health concerns you may have had, what your parents were like, what your childhood was like, just the whole thing. We just kind of chit chat like we're friends, just lay it on me.
Yeah.
And then to go into hypnosis, so you go into past life. So it's past life regression. I'm the guide. I don't tell people where they're going to regress to. We put it in the hands of your higher self, because your higher self knows what you need to see for your highest good, right? They're never going to bring forward anything that's going to be hurtful to you. I mean, it might be painful to watch. I've had some pretty intense sessions that, I've had people that were in concentration camps and,
Oh wow.
yeah, some very deep ones. And I've also had people that were extraterrestrials, and I've had people that regress to the in between lifetimes, this just abyss of nothingness between.
Can I drop in that one
Yeah.
just quickly? Something that came to me, and we'll keep going with that in a minute. Just your opinion with regards to people having these experiences and the emotions that come out. Because I know I had the emotion, and I had a session like yours, and basically was told, get stuff, don't worry about it, probably there for the money. Can we quickly, before we move on, what would happen if that would happen in a session with you? If you had someone who basically, had a trauma response of some sort, because obviously the treatment, or the treatment, I shouldn't say treatment, the session will
Yep.
trigger those emotions, and emotions are within us. And then that's what basically triggered my head down. What would you do? So yeah, then as I said, I do apologize for getting in, but I think it's very important for people to know that a lot of people are coming to see me with they're going, I went and saw someone and I've walked out and I've got all this emotion, this ball of energy, and I can't know what to do with it. What would what would happen with you?
Well, so I've had plenty of clients that actually cry through their session, even through the hypnosis. And I've actually had people get up off my bed and like try to walk away in hypnosis. Yeah, it just depends on what kind of session they're experiencing. But the thing with quantum healing hypnosis, we actually so once we do the past life regression portion, we actually move them into the subconscious. And this is where we do massive healing. So I have your higher self. And this is really fun because when you're in the regression portion of it, you speak like, I see this tree, or there's a hut over there. I know that guy. But when we move into the subconscious, it will be like, Jay needs to work on this. Jay has been avoiding this, whatever. So it's like the third person kicks in. So it's like speaking to a different identity. And so then I will ask that higher self, will you do a body scan and see if there's anything that is stuck or causing blockages in their lifetime right now? And they'll usually tell me yes, depending on what your highest good is. And then I ask a series of about 15 to 20 questions. And this is where people can ask, like, what's my life purpose? Why am I here? You know, why did I experience this in my childhood? Why can't I change jobs? You know, all the things they really want to know. I always tell people like, you know, I use God, source, creator, all kind of interchangeably.
Yep.
And I'm like, if you were sitting down with God right now, what would you want to ask him? Write those questions down. And I
That's a
want you
good
to
way of
write them
doing
for
it.
me.
Mm.
Yeah. And then that's how you can, you know, then I have these questions. I know what you're really trying to find out about your life, but they're spiritual surgeons. They'll come in, they'll realign chakras. So
Oh, I love
often
it.
when people
I
come
love it.
out, they feel so light by the time I pull
I
them
love
out of
it.
the regressions. Yeah,
Spiritual
it's
surgeons.
very releasing.
I love it. That's
Um,
great. What
yeah.
spiritual sir? That's it's amazing. So you actually call in your guides or their guides? What?
hmm
How is that? I know there's a lot of different ways people do it, but what's your therapy involved? Do you call in your guides to help you, your doctors and angel doctors and nurses, or do you call in? What do you How does it work for you?
Yeah, so I actually have several different layers that I do. So I do what's called a quad layer energy field. It's pulling different quantum energies. I lay them, I stack them in a grid into my space, which keeps
Right.
anything that could be possibly dark from coming inward. And then, yes, I call my guides in, I call their guides in. But then when we're with their higher self, then it's their higher self will bring in whatever or whoever needs to come through. I've had
Okay.
people's parents come through during the subconscious session,
Okay.
and it's wild because sometimes I've had people like they'll speak different languages. They'll go into full blown accents that they didn't have when we were just talking. Um, I've had extraterrestrials come through. I've had just so many
Wow.
different things. That's why I'm like you can't really you know, I'm one of those people, and anyone that's a QHHT practitioner that's done it for a while, um, you can't convince us that there's no uh, like
Life
entities
upon is it
outside.
life upon? Is it life beyond here?
Yeah. So the woman that actually discovered this technique, this Dolores Cannon. I don't know if you've
I've
studied
heard of
her
that
stuff.
name. Yeah, Dolores Cannon. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So she's actually the one that started this style, and she wrote a book. But when she was first kind of getting into it, she was connecting to Nostradamus, and
Oh
Nostradamus was
wow.
coming through her clients, and she did this over a series. She had multiple clients that he would come through. Not no way that they could have known that she was like in these communications with other clients because you know confidentiality,
Mm.
but he would come through all these different clients and we're telling her how to like decode and the prophecies and she was saying he's very chauvinistic, um, you know, but you're like, yeah, 14th century, you know, French didn't really like working with women, so he's like talking to a woman. But she was like, the thing that was crazy is that he was alive and well when she's communicating with him in France in the 14th century. So
Wow.
that tells you that time is not linear, it's folding on itself. You know what I mean? So when people, and I teach this very heavily in my coaching, I'm like, you can change the field. The field is not this linear time we've been taught. This is actually part of the cage of the matrix. This think that this is point A to point B. That's why I love that movie. I can't remember the name exactly, but I think it's like everything, anywhere, all at once, or something like that.
Oh.
Um,
Who's in it?
the kid from Indiana Jones when he's an adult though, he won an Oscar for it recently.
Oh, I'll have to have a look at. We'll have to look
Jamie
that
Lee
one.
Curtis. Yeah, it's
Oh, is that the
very,
recent? Is that
very
the recent one?
accurate.
Is that the recent one that's come out? Is that right? Or
Um, well, they like own laundromats and
hang on,
I don't know. Check it out. But it
I'm going
talks
to.
uh about exactly what I'm talking about with time and not being linear and it's kind of collapsing on itself and the parallel worlds and the many Earth theory kind of comes into this that you know there's multiple like infinity versions of yourself living out different timelines and different parallel realities. Um, and I've actually done that. I've channeled my own self in another reality before, which was really, really crazy because I was like,
Oh,
wow, I did not see that coming. But I have another client that she started to do channeling recently, but she had this like emotional breakdown when she was in her like early 20s and she remembers like an angelic being coming to her and like holding her as she was like having this like breakdown and then when she started channeling, she realized that it was actually her future self that went back to hold her own self through that breakdown. So the things that we can do if you stop living within the limitations that the matrix and the society has created, and this is
Yeah.
thousands of years. I tell people, I'm like, they didn't do this like over like a day. This is thousands of years of programming you. I mean, like I always say, like the pillars, right? Education, politics, religion, society, culture, and then you're not allowing those things to mix. And that's how they slowly over time, like made you believe that this is real. This kind of goes into a really fun experiment they did where they took 5 monkeys and they put a ladder in this cage with these 5 monkeys. They put bananas on the top, and anytime a monkey would climb it, they would all be sprayed with water. And so then after a while, if any monkey tried to climb it, the rest would fight that monkey so that it couldn't climb the ladder, and that they would all suffer the consequences, right? So then they started swapping out monkeys like one at a time, and realized that the monkeys, even though they weren't all the ones that were there when the water originally was splashed on them, none of them would climb the ladder because they had seen other ones that would attack the other ones trying to climb, and they didn't even know why, right? So these monkeys would just do something because they had no idea of the consequences that the first original 5 monkeys had experienced, but yet they still were acting as if they had experienced that same thing. Well, that's what's happened in our culture. That's what's happened in our society. We're all living in this limitation that a lot of people don't even realize is the limitation because it was built so complex, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Look, we're going to go into part 2 because we want to know about your book and your courses.
Yeah,
This has been absolutely fantastic. I'm fascinated with people who come and have. It's not like we have the same experience, but on a different level. Like,
oh, of course,
and getting so much knowledge from you already. It's just, and I think I always say that we're like the super friends. Like we've all got one common goal. We've all got different powers that come bring us together. And I'm very honored
100%.
to have you. Very honored to have you on the show. And ladies and gentlemen, go and get yourself. I was going to say throw a shrimp on the barbie. You know how it goes down here in Australia. But go and feed some kangaroos. They're out the front. If we want to do that, go get some water. And we're going to talk about this new book, these courses that Brheanna have. And we're looking forward to having them on. And, if you want to jump on, there's going to be some information for you to get on and talk to Brheanna about what she does, which is amazing. You can just see the love that she's got for it. And we need more healers and more people coming out. And this is exactly why I do what I do. So, ladies and gentlemen, take a break, go and get a drink, come back for part 2, pen and paper, because I think, you're going to have to enroll in this lady's courses. We will talk very, very soon.